want me to come up?
No.
What I have is concern over the zoning board's citizen membership requirements. If none of the one board, maybe back when Tom Cyphers, when they first started planning and zoning, they had Terry McNeely, another member on the board, and a citizen come up to him and refer to 216, which is the requirements so that they live or reside within the jurisdiction of the board. And at that time, Tom removed Terry McNeely and another member to replace him so they wouldn't lose out on that $60,000 grant money for the comprehensive plan when they first started off. That's what got me looking at the membership requirements here. After talking to Ben Bowling, we found out that Mark Hartman lived in the 2 Mile Fringe, which according to what the understanding was, you can't have members outside the jurisdictional limits of the board. Now, I brought this to the attention of the zoning board, and John said that, well, because you have blacktop there, you have jurisdiction there. But that's not what I found in the planning and zoning laws here, what it says for the stipulations. And also, it was brought up the 36-7-4-211, which says area. The board, I'll read the statement here on chapter 1, but it's for area board only, and we're an advisory board in Washington County. And because we are an advisory board, we have different stipulations we have to fall under. And one of them is,
excuse me just a second, Max. Where did you find that at?
this is the Indiana Planning Zoning Guide.
Where did you find that? We're advisory or
We are advisory. If you look on page 2, there's a map. It shows we're one of 51 counties in Indiana that is an advisory board. An area board has to have a municipality and the county combined together to become an advisory board. There's like 30 counties in the state that have that requirement, that meet that standard. And there's only one metro, which is in Indianapolis. But all, this book here speaks of all 3 boards. If it doesn't specify which one it applies to all boards, is what it says with I've got all the codes that it does specify with. I've got out of sequence on you, but I'll get to the gist. Let me start off with what chapter 1, page 1.1, down at the bottom of it says, throughout IC 36-7-4, a reader will note the preceding terms, advisory, area, and metro, following the statutory language which applies to that type of planning commission. In cases where there is no heading, the section applies to all planning commissions. 211 starts off with area. It only applies to area where it allows you to change board membership. So we can't change the board membership based on, because we are an advisory board. Therefore, we have to comply with all these other sections that are in the chapter. I'll read one more thing, 1.2 on page 1. Advisory planning commissions can serve cities, towns, and counties. Municipal advisory planning commissions serve the area within their corporate limits, and in some cases are allowed planning jurisdiction over contiguous unincorporated territory up to 2 miles outside the corporate limits. Now here comes the county part. County advisory planning commissions serve the unincorporated territory within the county, excluding any extraterritorial jurisdiction claimed by municipalities. That means we do not have the city of Salem's, the 2 Mile Fringe, the county cannot control what they claim. They didn't take all the 2 Mile Fringe, if you look at it as a radius or an oval, but the areas that they squared off and left out to the county has to control, has to take responsibility of it, but only that. And when you get further down the end of the pages, 208 says you can have, we've set up a 5-member citizen board and no more than 3 can be the same political party. And what we've got on the record, we've got 2 Democrats, but both of which have, in the last 2 election cycles, have voted Republican primaries, declaring themselves the Republican Party. That's my guess for that. It's not been, and then that's on 208. And 216, the members must be a resident of the jurisdictional area of the planning commission. And that's where we don't have jurisdiction in the 2 mile fringe. And also, at least the majority of the total members of the citizen must, appointed to the planning commission, must reside within the jurisdictional limits. You can live in a 2 mile fringe so long as you own property out in the county, but you gotta have at least 3 members. That's this other section, let me read that. The members must be resident of the jurisdictional area of the planning commission. The member may also be required by statute to reside within the unincorporated area of the jurisdictional area of the planning commission. And 2, the member must be a resident of the county and also be an owner of real property located in whole or in part within the jurisdiction area of the planning commission. The member may be required by statute to own real property within the unincorporated area of the jurisdictional area of the planning commission. So at least 3 members have to live within the area, but all members have to own or reside in the area. And that's the gist of what I was getting after. And also, on 218 requires, it's a four-year term for the board members, and it, down at C, under the advisory, there's staggered membership when they first were appointed. 1 for 1 year, 1 for 2 years, 1 for 3 years, and 2 for 4 years. So when they come up at the end of these terms, they should be staggered according to the state's, or according to the county's paperwork as who's appointed to these boards and when their terms end up at, the limits of their terms. I'm just asking that we try to get back in compliance with what the state has for the board member requirements. Because this board can become a taxing agent. It's important that you do follow the state guidelines. It's not right now, but it has the legal authority to do so.
Justin, can I ask you to research?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and look into it and see what needs to be done for instance in compliance. Now also, Pike County actually abolished the board. So it is possible to eliminate the board altogether if that's what you want to do. But I'm just asking you to be compliant if you're writing ordinances that's going to affect the people in the county and have the authority to actually fine people for non-compliance. That the board needs to be legal and within state statutes during the time these ordinances are being written, so there's due process for the people who reside within the jurisdictional limits to participate.
Yeah, I think, I'll look into it.
That's all I'm asking for, that it be looked into and that we come back into compliance. But Tom, in the beginning of time, he was challenged on this and he had to change membership to keep from losing $60,000.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware that we had members that wasn't being closely monitored. I know it's maybe different than any other board you have in the entire county, or you have weed boards and all kinds of other boards, but the ones that start requiring political party affiliations, which are hard to track because like a lot of Democrats change parties this cycle. But and in the case I was looking at there's been 2 election cycles, and when you go get your ballot, you have to declare that you're going to vote for more of that party when you vote in the primary. Is my understanding when I went to ask for a ballot. So that's party affiliation unless the state has some other standard to go by. And the ownership of the property, we brought that off the county's website, off their map. That's all we had to, as a citizen, you may have something better than what the county's updated for us, but this is the best I had to go with.
Yeah, I don't think it's a simple issue for sure, but thanks for bringing it.
Well, I'm hoping it can be resolved that we meet the standards set for that. But the state legislature went through there's tons and tons of stuff in here, and you read it and you got to read it backwards, and just like missing out on the area part, there's some sections that apply to this and that, and you'll get into manufactured housing and what the state has to say on it, and
I know.
not everything's here, but there's a lot of stuff And it's a lot to keep track of, but I'd like you to look into this particular section. I do have copies of what I printed off with the codes I'm citing, so that you can refer back to and say, oh, that's, you're misrepresenting this or,
Yeah, no,
or misunderstanding that. Anyway, I appreciate your time.
yeah, I know there's a lot of appointments that these guys make, and sometimes it's hard to even find people to serve in those roles.
For Salem's board, we got 2 appointments as well, and that's keeping track of them, and they're on a staggered basis as well. And once it gets lost in space, it's hard to come back and catch it. If it wasn't on in the proper sequence 6 years ago, it stayed out sequence every year of that.
I think this was set up in 2008 or 2009 maybe, and the intent is clearly to comply with the state statute. So I'll take a look at it and see if we can maybe get up to speed.
Good enough. Oh yeah, that's just where it is, but once it gets lost, and as far as down the road, to be challenged on whether due process was given and all the other stuff, and because eventually you're gonna write stuff not everybody's gonna agree with, and when they get turned down, they don't need to be saying, well, why should I comply if you refuse to comply?
Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, give it to him. Just get
That
it.
being said, we need to recess till 6 p.m. tonight for the ARC meeting. Thank you.